1 million people sign up tomorrow. How are you set to deal with that?
When you're talking to teachers, they will say, I hate it, I love it.
Welcome to the Tech Transfer Podcast. I'm Dave Brown. I am here with Michael Murph and Randy Davies, two of our great BYU inventors, and we have an exciting technology to talk about. So can you start by telling me your background a little bit, Randy?
Sure. My name is Randy Davies. I work here at BYU. I'm a professor of instructional psychology and technology. Been here for about 15 years, over 15 years now. I study technology integration into the teaching and learning process.
Mm-hmm. And entrepreneur now too, and we'll
entrepreneur.
talk about that. So, Murph?
Michael Murph. I'm a PhD student here at BYU in measurement and evaluation. I've been in the tech industry for about 15 years, various analytic and product roles. Mm-hmm. So I've done a few big tech and some small tech as well.
Okay, great. So, and you're two of the three inventors of WriteGrader. Royce Kimmons is the other one, and you've launched a company that's commercializing this technology. So, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. We started a company called Gen AI Learning Solutions, and one of the products, the main product that we're talking about today, is WriteGrader.com. And this product is basically an app that uses generative AI to help teachers grade essays and give feedback to students so that they can improve their writing ability.
Mm-hmm. And so Murph, what problem were you trying to address? What was the inspiration?
So one of the things was we were doing some needs analysis. We interviewed dozens of teachers and found sort of a common thread around resistance to grading essays, or at least a little trepidation. Mm-hmm. We were interviewing several teachers, and one of them told us, hey, I've been married 26 years, and I'd like to be married for as many more. And I'd also like my Saturday mornings back. And so he was spending, this was a professional dental teacher, and he's spending a lot of time grading, really dominating his nights and weekends, and very painful. And so very excited to see WriteGrader and to start using it. And so, a lot of teachers, they get overwhelmed. They have 50 students, and they have to collect 5-page essays. That's 250 pages to plow through, and it's a lot all at once, kind of crushing down. Mm-hmm. So there's been a lot of excitement about automating some of that workload.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely have teacher friends who stay up late grading papers, and it's the same essay over and over, and it's not fun. So if there's a way to automate that away, that would be great. So how did you approach the problem? Like, Randy, what were the steps?
Well, the interesting thing about this was I've done some work with automated essay grading before, and I've written on it. And basically, 5 years ago or so, I'd written a paper that basically said automated essay grading using AI isn't ready yet, because all it can do is the writing mechanics. It doesn't do anything more. And about a year and a half ago, when Mike came and said, I want to do my dissertation on AI, I said, I don't think so. But this was right at the time when ChatGPT was starting out with their first basic models. And so we started to look at that problem as, can this be a solution to this essay grading? Because we knew there was a problem. We just needed to be able to find a solution that would really help do what we wanted it to do. And so when Murph first started telling me, this is what I want to do, I said no, and then he showed me what it could do, because these models were, and I said, okay, it's no longer what it was when I wrote that it couldn't do this. It is now ready for the big times. It is ready to be able to do that, because before it was just looking at the mechanics. Now it can sense with the transformer logic that the generative AI has. It can get the sense of what's being read, and it looks at the relationships much better than it did before. And so that's a solution that's time has come for essay grading and automated essay grading in general.
Mm-hmm. And so the pain of grading essays has been around for a long time. Teachers must have workarounds and things that they do. But how did the idea evolve to the solution you have now?
So just to build on what Randy was saying, it's been about 50 years since automated essay scoring was even a thing in academia. There's been a lot of commercial efforts by some of the big academic companies to commercialize this problem. What we found, and there's been sort of three waves. The first chatbot back at MIT in the 60s was called Eliza, and all it did was echo People would type in a simple prompt and it would echo back. And they found that was kind of useful and pretty engaging. The second wave was what Randy was talking about in terms of using machine learning to do scoring. And it just wasn't good enough to capture the nuance and complexity of human language. And so in the last 3 to 5 years, there's been just a huge revolution in technology. And the time's really come where, it's good enough and accurate enough, reliable enough to automate essay scoring in large part.
Okay, so I use ChatGPT constantly, and I know if I submitted essays to be graded just into a tool like that, it would give me very inconsistent results. I'd have to get my query right. It would be difficult to do, difficult to make it work. So Randy, how does the product work? If people go to WriteGrader, and what is the website as well?
WriteGrader.com.
So
that's with a W.
Yeah, it's like you're writing something down, WriteGrader.com. If they go there, how does the product work?
Well, the product works pretty seamlessly. It takes about 2 minutes to log in and start grading. But the essence of what happens is, like you said, anybody can go in and get a $20 a month GPT account or a Cloud account and just give it an essay and say, grade this. And it'll grade it. In fact, when we first started testing this, that's what we did. We said, can you grade this essay? And it would say, sure, I can, but I don't have a rubric, so I'll make up my own. And it made up its own rubric, and it graded it on that rubric, and it did pretty good for that. But the way that these AIs work is they have a context window. And as soon as it gets out of the context window, it starts to forget things, and that's why it's inconsistent. As well, if you wanted a customized rubric, you'd have to tell the AI what the rubric was and then give it an essay, and then it will soon forget what the rubric was, so you have to re-enter it, and that's where you get that inconsistency. And you want to make sure that it's consistent and accurate. And so the way that we've designed WriteGrader is to make sure that we've taken out the tediousness of trying to enter it the same every time. We use system prompts and chain prompting and multi-shot prompting to make sure that it's accurately grading what you're giving it. And so you can go in, create a rubric, it sits there and waiting for you to submit essays. Put in another rubric, it saves that rubric, and you can grade other essays on it. You know that it's on target and accurate at the same time.
Okay, so if I'm, say, an AP history teacher and I want to use this, and maybe I'm not particularly technical, I've actually messed around with the website, so I know it's pretty user-friendly. I would go in there, I type in my rubric just like I'm typing into a Word document or something, and then how do I upload tests? What's the process like?
Yeah, so the first step, like as you were saying, is just to log in with your Google credentials. It's seamless. Then we have a library of rubrics that are research-backed. So Dr. Davies has more than 5,000 citations in this field, has done a lot of research on assessment. We've taken that and boiled it down into a library of rubrics. So you can easily select, I have a history essay for AP Government. Let me plug that in. And then all you have to do then is just upload an essay in any format. It could be PDF, Word, or others. And within about a minute, you get your response. If you're not comfortable with it, you can override the score. You can add to your feedback and personalize it for your student. And then you can directly message them, hey, I have feedback for you. One of my frustrations as a student over the years has been, I put a lot of effort into an essay. I submit it to the professor, and maybe 2 to 4 weeks later, I get something back. At that point, I've completely moved on. And I'm just not in the headspace to even accept the feedback. So WriteGrader is allowing teachers to then give almost near real-time feedback to their students and be part of that process.
Actually, right before I came over here, there was a student who works in our office who was complaining that they just took a test online and now they have to wait weeks for the grade. And I said that should never happen again, and I explained your technology. So
we do have some evidence that this is actually working. Some of our beta testers, an AP history teacher, she said she was going on leave and she had a student send her 2 essays. And she said, I don't know if I have time to grade these and give you the feedback before I go on leave. And so she ran it through WriteGrader because she's one of our beta testers. She got the feedback, customized it, made sure it was good, sent it back to her immediately, like within an hour. Mm-hmm. And she said, okay, that was great. But then she got feedback from the student. She says, perfect, this is exactly what I needed. I needed to be able to get that feedback so that I could go and take my AP exam that I was taking. And, you know, it was exactly the use case, that the problem that we were trying to solve. The immediacy of the feedback that you can give to students, not waiting that length of time. And then it's the accuracy also. Was this valuable? Yeah, this student really valued the input that she was getting. In fact, that same teacher was saying, this has made me a better teacher because I look at the feedback that the AI is giving and I learn how to give good feedback. I'm never able to give that extensive of feedback with the suggestions on how to improve it like the AI does. But then I can look at what it is and then I'm learning from that and I'm a better teacher because of it.
Mm-hmm. And I know that you've worked on the whole kind of user experience for teachers. What are some of the other things that kind of streamline grading for teachers?
So the ability to have a grade book and have all of your essays in one place, all of your scores, to be able to see the distribution and then be able to modify that. One of the things we found is that AI is more strict than humans. Mm-hmm. And it's because it's more precise and really applying the rubric almost pedantically. And so it sort of reveals a generosity bias in teachers, because teachers really want their students to succeed. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the clear and careful feedback gets lost in that human relation. So the ability to override a grade and to put a grading policy in place, sort of change the distribution. That's one of the features we've built into WriteGrader. The ability to have all of your grades in one place with the essays and the feedback that's editable and personalizable has been very useful and very well received.
Okay. Well, great. So with this system set up, if people start using WriteGrader, and I think you can just go and do a trial of some kind. You can just try it out, right? So if people start using this for their grading, what role does the human play? And also, how do you ensure that the model is accurate?
One of the things that we're adamant about is that AI shouldn't replace humans. Shouldn't be using WriteGrader or any AI just to do your grading, just like you wouldn't want your students to just use AI to write their essays. Because in that scenario, we have the students having the AI write their essays and have an AI grade the essays, and what value is there in terms of the learning that should be happening. So we've designed WriteGrader to allow the human to stay in the process. When a human grades the essay, they're able to go in, check to make sure that the grading is accurate, make sure that the feedback is good, and they can customize the feedback, giving kind of specific examples for that student, talking to them directly rather than just saying this AI is talking to you. And then they can give that feedback to them quickly.
Okay. I got to tell you, when I tried out the tool, I actually did have ChatGPT write my essay, and then I submitted it. I got an A-, pretty good. So, but yeah, students will do that. We don't want teachers to do that, right? So, good. And then in terms of accuracy going forward, will anything change? Like, is the model set, or are you still working on some issues?
So we're still doing we're in sort of a soft launch period right now. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we've documented are 3 different biases. One is some AIs are just too generous. And so we've actually looked at all of the commercial AIs that are out today, as well as some open source models, and sort of benchmark those. And so we integrate with several of those, and we're able to sort of optimally choose the one that's most accurate. Mm-hmm. The other thing is we mentioned the human generosity bias and sort of helping teachers become aware of that.
So one of the other biases that we've noted is the inconsistency in humans, right? I often say, if you're going to use this AI to compare it to humans, you're setting a low bar, because the AI is much more consistent than a human at doing these. They have a lot of different biases that they'll do. The AI will grade consistently, so this inter-rater reliability. One of the things that we also noticed in that same light is that AIs cannot do conditional hypotheticals. Mm-hmm. And humans, for good reason, will kind of consider the context and say, I'm going to adjust my scoring to make it more lenient. And there's a lot of teachers don't realize that they're that lenient, or that they're that inconsistent. And so the AI kind of gives this accurate grading, but then allows them the consistency as well that they can modify in their grading policy to kind of address some of the issues that they do. One of the teachers told us that, it is grading more severely than me, but it's accurate. I grade less severely because all of my little essays are 4 points on this exam. If I took a point off for every essay, the student would only get 75%, which isn't what I want. And so I'm looking for anything that's redeeming in this essay to give them full points. The essay is not that way. It gives them the points, and then it allows me, WriteGrader does, allows me to then adjust for it to say, okay, you're right, but this needs to be a little bit more lenient for that.
All right. Well, that's a great feature. And one reason I ask about the human component, we want to know how it's going to affect teachers, but people might not realize up front when the two of you first talked to me about this technology, you were concerned because there are workers in other countries who grade papers for a living, who get paid for that. To me, it seems inevitable that a lot of those sorts of jobs are going to be automated away, and it's probably most important that it be done in a good way, right? But what do you think the effect will be on the workforce for teachers and other people in that industry?
Well, there's a constant, inexorable march of technology, and so, jobs are always sort of adapting generationally. If you think about the role of a teacher, historically, has been stand in front of a classroom and repeat the same talk track again and again and again. Mm-hmm. That's sort of fading away with a lot of technology and multimedia teaching and the flipped classroom. Grading's the same way. Historically, it's been a very manual process, line by line, essay by essay, and time is in shortage and headspace is in shortage. Giving teacher better tools and the ability to automate essay scoring is going to free them up to do higher value activities. Maybe go mentor a student or go build that next curriculum. So there's a lot of sort of added value in terms of reducing the opportunity cost of the manual process that's historically been there. Now, in that, some of these repetitive jobs, like in any other space, if you think about the clerk at Walmart, that job is going away, right? There's lots of jobs that are fading away. Automation is an inexorable force, and people can adapt and do higher value things.
We have a mantra that we use when we talk about technology integration, especially in education. Let the technology do what it does well, and let the teacher do what they do well. Mm-hmm. And if we're using this technology appropriately, it will free up the teacher to do a lot of the things that they haven't been able to do because they now have this technology that's doing it well. Inevitably there will be some people that lose jobs, and they could still use those same tools to do them. So like any of these people that we're grading, they could grade more efficiently, more accurately using WriteGrader and, still do that. But there's just a lot of things that are going to change because of this. AI is a disruptive innovator. It's an innovation that is going to change the way education is done. There's a lot of resistance to it, especially in education, because of that thing, that they're worried that there's going to be a lot of job loss and there's a lot of value lost. But I look at it differently. I look at the technology is going to make us better in that we're going to be able to have more time to do other things well instead of just doing them to get them done.
Mm-hmm. And teaching is a different sort of industry, education. Unlike maybe more corporate industries, I don't see there being massive job cuts as a result of this. I think probably people would reallocate their time to more like maybe smaller class size or something else like that, right? But if I talk to, in your experience, if I talk to a neighbor or a friend who's a teacher and tell them about this technology, what reaction do I expect? Are they mostly in favor or are they mostly concerned?
There's definitely concern, but most of the people, if it doesn't affect you directly, it's kind of like, oh, that's nice.
Right.
But when it affects you directly, then you have definite emotional reaction to it. So when you're talking to teachers who are directly affected by it, they will say, I hate it, I love it. Right? There's no middle ground really for them. Just the general person's out there saying, yeah, well, that's interesting. But when teachers, they're either afraid because they don't understand what the technology could do to help them, or they're so overwhelmed. We've had a lot of teachers that we've been introducing this to that said, oh, I need that because I am so overwhelmed.
So, well, good. Well, what are some success stories? I've heard some pretty good success stories out of this, but what ones come to mind?
So we've been working on several pilots with universities and various institutions. And I would say there's a delight aspect to using the software because teachers, they have this sort of dread around grading and grading lots of essays all at once. And we're completely lifting that. And so, we had one user, her name was Caitlin, so excited about this technology and the fact that she had hundreds of students in an online context, she was able to grade extremely efficiently, saving probably 80% of her time that she was, reallocating all of a sudden. And then able to validate, hey, this is very accurate, and just amazed at the reliability of the tool. And then, as Dr. Davies said, giving rapid feedback to students is one of the big exciting factors.
Yeah. Randy, did any other reactions stand out to you?
Well, there's lots of little anecdotal evidences that this is really good. I just want to share one about Murph's son, because we had
and he's 14?
He's 14.
Yeah.
And he had a short little essay that he was grading, and the teacher, it was out of 2 points, and the teacher gave him full points. And he brought this in, and Murph was testing it out with the WriteGrader, and it only gave him 75%. And he says, I hate this. This is going to make our lives terrible because it's grading more strictly than my teacher is grading. And so then we looked at it and we said, oh yeah, this is, the WriteGrader was grading it accurately. You misspelled things, you had run-on sentences, you were kind of blathering a little bit here and didn't know what you're doing. And the teacher was lenient with you and gave you 2. And he says, yeah, I want the lenient grader, but the teacher can adapt that, right? And then you ask, well, why did that teacher do that? Because they didn't have the time to go through and give good feedback on everything. And so that they were just taking a short little time to get, all right, this is good enough, rather than giving that student real feedback on how to improve their writing, which is what we want. The only reason that we give them writing exercises is so that we can demonstrate that they know how to do it. And if they're not doing it well, just giving them full points because we're too lazy to give feedback or we're too overwhelmed to give feedback, then that's not doing that student any service to be able to get that done either.
Yeah, and I'm always interested by workarounds, and when people are using technologies in ways other than how they're intended, it does seem to me that students should use this. I'll be interested to see who adapts it faster, students or teachers, because as a student, you typically have the rubric from the professor, so you could draft your essay and run it through that thing, get a pre-grade before you actually get the real grade. Have you seen any of that?
That's one of the things that we're actually going to adapt from the WriteGrader. The WriteGrader right now is a summative assessment for teachers to look at and grade and give feedback to an essay, but a lot of the value is going to be in a topic tutor where students can use this and say, I'm not sure how to write this essay. And the AI can actually give them feedback and instruction. So it can say, in this kind of an essay, we want this. Your introduction should have this. And then it can say, with proper guardrails so that it doesn't write it for them, it can say, submit your introduction and I'll give you feedback. This is something that the teacher doesn't have time to do. So the student can use that to kind of augment their ability to write well. And so they get it, they get feedback, they said, oh, that's why I'm supposed to do that. They fix it. Then when they submit that final grade, it'll be much better, but they'll also have learned why and how to do the writing rather than just, I'm submitted something, I don't know what it is, 3 weeks later, I'm going to get some feedback and I don't care anymore.
Yeah. Great. Well, I want to ask about some of the business challenges, and 2 thoughts first. One is, in case anyone's not aware, obviously the university has an interest in the success of the business. We hope you do great. But then also, you licensed the technology, the startup licensed the technology, and then it was maybe 3 weeks later that you had a commercial prototype ready to go. That is really fast. Some people wonder, well, if it comes out of an academic setting, are you going to take a long time to create the product? But you were off and running really fast. Despite all that, like Murph, what are some challenges that have happened?
Well, kind of first rule of product management is you've got to know who you're focusing on and which market. So we spent some time doing user testing, interviewing people, and really kind of honing in on the pain point. Secondly, what are their underserviced needs? And we looked at all the needs that teachers have, and we found that grading essays was a big pain point. And so once we had that confidence and conviction, we built a user interface, partnering with Royce Kimmons, who's our co-founder and partner, a true technologist. And so we did a lot of the prototyping of the logic, and then we built a user experience around this. And so that's really the key is, can you take the use case, which is well known and well understood, felt by many teachers, and build a workflow around it and really make it a compelling, easy, automated experience where they can add their personalized value as well.
One of the things that really worked for us too is aligning the technology with the problem. So using generative AI to solve a writing problem is a real good fit. There are some things that you could try to incorporate AI with, and it's not going to work well. But this did.
Okay, well, that's super interesting. That sounds like the typical business challenges that you face, and you guys are scaling up. You're a startup company. People are going to learn about your technology, and I would imagine this spreads really fast among teachers. I'm definitely going to be talking to teacher friends about it. If 1 million people sign up tomorrow, how are you set to deal with that?
So the product is very scalable. It's built on AWS on the back end. Of course, we're using the foundational models, very reliable, commercial-grade APIs, and an optimized front end. So up to now, we've done some load testing. It can easily handle hundreds, even thousands of essays within a single session. And then across multiple users, those are all sort of parallel jobs. So there's no trouble with scale whatsoever.
Okay, and Randy, do you want to tell us about how the pricing works a little bit? Someone can try it for free, but then what's kind of the pricing model?
We have kind of two options. You can use this just as an individual, go in, try it for free, and then it's a pay per use. So, it's about 10 cents an essay. You can grade as many as you want. Teachers tend to grade in cycles. So they'll have a whole bunch of essays, and then they don't have anything for a while. So you go in, spend a couple dollars, grade your essays, get the feedback quickly. Then you're going and teaching and doing something. When you need more, you can just increase your credits, or your energy is what we call it, to be able to do more essays. We also have institutional licensing. So if you have an organization that does just a lot of grading, you can purchase an institutional license, which is kind of by the year, and then you have unlimited use of the product for that year and be able to grade as much as you can.
One of the weaknesses of MOOCs, in my experience, has been you listen to a lecture. So these are those large, whatever it stands for, those large courses you can do online from Coursera and others. You do a lecture, and then you have a multiple choice quiz, and it's pretty well limited to multiple choice. I could see a Coursera or someone saying, sign us up, we're going to use those in our courses. If someone big came, is that like a one-off negotiation, or how do you handle that?
Well, right now, we're just negotiating individually with organizations. We do have a plan, but you kind of have to call us and see how many. Because like large organizations, we're still exploring with this. We're new. We've only been up for a couple months. You can have like 10 licenses, 100 licenses. How many do you want? Obviously, to scale, you have lots of people. You're going to be able to pay less for that. If you've got one person, you're going to pay a little bit more. But definitely, this is something that we're exploring. We're academics. This is one of those challenges that we have, to be able to learn the marketing side and figure out how to make this viable product very successful for you in helping you do what you need to do.
Yeah, we've had so many great BYU academics who have done research like you have here and then have turned it into a legitimate startup business. And you're well down the road on that, even though it's new. Talking about product market fit, the way you've scaled up and created a very user-friendly experience, seems like it's going pretty well. And so now it really is about scaling up. Most startups aren't going to want to talk too much about future plans, but Murph, is there anything you can tell us about future versions or future features you might want to add?
Yeah, so we have all the core functionality built, so it's what you would call an MMP, a minimum marketable product, fully functional. What we're looking at roadmap-wise is adding a full LMS integration, so with Google Classroom, Canvas, Learning Suite, the ability to take an assignment, download it into WriteGrader, grade the essays, send back the scores, and sort of make that very seamless is the next logical step for us. In addition to that, adding some more intelligence features, things like a very seamless way to create a rubric that's customized for that person. As I mentioned, we have the library of rubrics. They can easily select those. But then, do they need to customize that further, or can we make recommendations? Is a next logical step.
Yeah, one thing to me that's nice about the future of your business is right now you're responding to a very specific pain point that we all understand, having to grade papers. And that's the primary pain point. But going forward, it's the sort of technology that could end up creating new use cases that don't exist right now. For example, I've never been on a webinar or a live presentation where they had me do short answer sort of quizzes during them. It's always multiple choice, right? And it would just be nice to be able to do that sort of quiz. So I would suspect that this will pop up other places as well.
Well, and a lot of times they don't do that because they want the objectively scored items because they're quick and efficient. But those objectively scored multiple choice, fixed answer responses they don't get at the higher level learning. But the essays are, and the restricted response kind of short answer questions, they allow for that kind of testing and assessment. The reason we don't do it is because it's time consuming to grade. Once you integrate this into the process, WriteGrader into the process, that's going to alleviate that tedium of grading it and giving good feedback and making sure that it's accurate.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's fantastic. So there are other people on campus developing software. Often people who are doing research think, well, I'm not a business person, but you've made that leap. What would be your advice for other inventors who want to start a business or get their product out there?
Well, it really goes back to those first principles. Who is your customer? What are their unmet needs? What value propositions do you have that match those needs? And then can you build a user experience in software that's going to map to those underlying needs? Mm-hmm. So really we're looking at things that are at high importance and where people are not very satisfied. Grading essays is one of those items.
Another thing is, don't try to do things that you're not good at. Get good people around you. Yeah. So we have a team of 3 people that work really well together, and we each have kind of specialties in different areas, and that works really well. So you just need people that know how to do the things that you need to do. So if you're an academic that wants to do this, you need to find people to collaborate with and that can do the things that you can't do well, and then it works better.
And in terms of doing actual tech transfer, like licensing a technology from the university, I think we stepped out of the way pretty well for you guys, but how did that go? Any pointers on working with tech transfer?
A lot of people look at the tech transfer and as academics say, why should I pay the university for doing this? Yeah. But if you think about it, really, BYU has added a lot of value to us. They provide a lot of resources for us. Opportunities I wouldn't have met Mike Murph if he hadn't been a student here at BYU. Finding and interacting with different people. So there is something that they've provided for us that makes this all work. So the tech transfer is essential, right? They're partners with us as well. And Dave, you've done a great job of, helping us, giving us good advice and working with us. And like you said, you did what you needed to do, helped us get over that so that everything worked well, and we appreciate that.
Hey, thanks. No, I was excited about you guys from the start. This is a really fun one, I think. What would be your advice for institutions or schools that want to get involved? Like there could be like a school district superintendent listening, thinking we should really use that, or maybe it's inevitable that we'll use that. What should they do?
So one of the ironic things over the last 18 months since ChatGPT was released is that some schools have said, oh, we don't want to use that AI, and have taken sort of a very defensive posture. 80% of schools are now using AI in some form or fashion, but there's still those holdouts. We want to make it easy for schools to adopt WriteGrader. And a couple of things that we've heard from customers that are really important is privacy of data. So the essays that are graded are not sent to any service provider and stored in a permanent way. There's a transactional, data processing, but then those data are deleted and they're not retained. Moreover, none of those essays are used in any model training. And so the data is really the educator's data. We recommend that essays are privatized, but even if they're not, the data is not at risk. We're following industry standard privacy protocols.
Some jump right in and try it out, and others are like saying, if I don't know how to do this, then I'm not going to try it. We can do training with people easily to say, give us a group of people, we'll show how it works. Some of the people that are beta testing for us, they said, we really like this, but like one of the teachers said, I have to count how many times they cite these documents, and it's hurting my eyes to try to read through this and count. And I said, well, let's see if WriteGrader will do this for you. And we asked WriteGrader to count how many times it cited it and then reported in the feedback. One line of kind of instructions, it did it for, and she said, wow, that's going to save me hours to be able to just do that one thing. That little bit of training helped that person overcome a big hurdle.
And on your website, you have a short video that kind of shows how to use it. Like, it is very user-friendly. So on the topic of adoption of AI in school districts, I'm just old enough to remember when universities were dealing with the internet and there were committees deciding, should we use the internet on campus or not? And so for me, it just seems like AI is completely inevitable and you should embrace it and use it as an awesome tool now. Am I right, pro or con? What do you think?
You're absolutely right. Our job isn't to say we don't want to use technology. It's to make sure we're using it in a positive way. So you can use AI to really augment our ability, but we don't want it to supplement the training that we're trying to provide. So, if we're using AI and it's basically what I call training incompetence, that's not a good thing. We want to learn how to use this so that it actually augments their learning. And we can do that. And we're building WriteGrader in a way that it does enhance our ability, not just replace it.
Okay. Well, terrific. So final thoughts. Murph, anything else people should know about the company?
You can go to WriteGrader.com and start grading for free. It takes less than 2 minutes to upload your essays. You can upload 5 or 10 or even 100 essays. There's really no limits. You can use the product for free for some period of time. And what we've seen is that in certain school districts, there's been some early adopters and 5 or 10 people that get involved. And there's a real word of mouth around this technology because it just adds so much value.
Yeah, when there's something obviously valuable like this, be the early adopter. I think that makes so much sense. So great. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show to talk about this. WriteGrader is a fascinating product. You guys are doing a great job. And we will, of course, be back with another episode of the podcast.
Thank you.